it's time for us to take a look at top stories that made it to the front pages of some selected dailies. Now, kicking off with Daily Trust, bold leader in front. We can win without governors, says Erifai. All right. We don't need the backing of governors to unseat President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in 2027 elections. Erifai said that, especially owing to the backdrop of key figure, joining the opposition party. You find that story on page 3. Still on Daily Trust, NEC Delta Caretaker Committee top agenda as PDP NWC meets today. Tinubu is isolated, Baba Ahmed. Find that on page 8. Electricity-related incidents kill 112 in 2024. And there on the picture, you'd find students queuing up for their JAMB exams in Buhari, Abuja yesterday. How local government election exposed rift between Niger government. Benue cult violence claims 20 lives in 6 months. Okay. Late gospel artist Osinachi's husband sentenced to death by hanging. And residents flee as Boko Haram intensify attacks on Adamawa villages. These are the stories we have on the front pages of Daily Trust. Do grab yourself a copy and keep yourself informed. And for the headlines there, yesterday was the JAM examination, and we wish all the students who are taking their examinations all the best, because that is crucial. Without that, you might most likely get admission, and it's one exam that is just for either an hour or 2 or less,
and
it's quite
make
tough
it
to
or
pass.
break it.
It's quite tough to pass. So it's a good luck to all the students who are on that. And also, we're seeing a story on insecurity, where residents are fleeing Adamawa, even in the midst of foreign aids pulling out from IDPs.
Exactly.
Where are these people going to be? What investment is going to be made into all of these people? And then we also saw the final sentence of Osinachi's husband being sentenced, the gospel artist who, when she first died, the husband alleged was throat cancer.
Yes.
But further investigations went and they realized there was a certain level of domestic abuse going on.
Exactly.
And he was being arrested, and the case has been in court since 2022. When I saw it, the first thing that came to my mind was the children.
Absolutely.
Just like that, they are orphaned.
Absolutely.
So it shows that your actions as parents reflects a lot, and your actions affects your children one way or another.
Yeah, exactly.
But those are the stories we have on Daily Trust.
All right, next daily we have is Vanguard newspaper for today. Boldly in front we have Oberevori, Okowa created political tsunami not seen before. This is on the defection to APC, and Tinubu said this: more governors will move. Oberevori, our decision for good of Deltans. On the top left, we have WAEC and NACO begin CBT exams by 2026, says federal government. And conclave starts May 7th. Cardinals say new pope must tackle abuse. That is on page 8 if you want more information on that. Down below, we have unlawful trial of Nnamdi Kanu, an affront to rule of law and natural justice, says IPOB. And then we have local airports without permits face sanctions from 2026, says NCCA. That's all we have on Vanguard newspaper. Grab yourself a copy so that you have more on the stories.
All right, now moving on to Blueprint. Boldly there on Blueprint, Tinubu to Oberevori and Okowa. Welcome to APC, not as defectors but architects of better Nigeria. Deltans want to get connected to Abuja. Show Tinubu love, says Oberevori. And Governor Otu links defection to APC-led governance performance. That's Governor Basu Otu of Cross River State. Now, that is one governor that I know was elected based on a person, based on the people of Cross River State wanted him because of his person and what they knew his capabilities was, not because of the party he belonged to.
Yeah.
They didn't like the party, but they liked the person. And they went for the person. All right, moving away from that now. Still on Blueprint at the top, Nigeria's judiciary will uphold principle of fairness and inclusivity, says the CJN. And on Hajj 2025, 3,800 Kebbi pilgrims ready for airlift. On business, assets leads as banks earn 5.93 trillion naira from investment securities. And in sports, Tinubu hails Remo Stars' historic NPFL title success. Uphold equity transparency, federal government charges RMAFC. Still on blueprint on 2027, INEC seeks voting rights for inmates, Nigerians in diaspora. Early voting for security operatives and others on election duty. I like this inclusivity that is coming, especially with the early voting for security operatives, because the questions were being raised as, okay, those security operatives who have been deployed and other people on election duty, do they get to vote? Sometimes even media people don't get to because
vote
either you're here
duty,
talking or you're on duty. So if there's early voting, there's that inclusivity. And also for Nigerians in diaspora, a lot was being said about that, and also inmates. So yes, let's see how how that would play out. Still on blueprint, conclave to begin, election of next pope on May 7th, and NOA commits to national unity, civic responsibilities. Those are the story we have on Blueprint. Do well to grab yourself a copy and keep yourself informed.
Moving on to this day newspaper, as we can see on all fronts of every newspaper, or a newspaper, we have Okowa. This is a movement, not defection. Okowa. We move to APC for the good of Delta. And at the bottom it says, Tinubu to defectors, you are co-owners of APC, not party's guests. Ganduje, Uzudimma, Otu, Nwoko, Keyamo, others welcome new members. On the top of that, we have Lamido, Odinkalu, Akinola, Jinadu, others warn against coercive defection. That has been a topic of discussion as well, where most people are saying that the defection has been coerced. On the top of the newspaper, we have Fagbemi, why Nigerian judges must be conversant with new electricity law. Kekere Kun decries deaths linked to power sector. At the bottom, we have some pictures depicting celebration, which says Delta as APC's new beautiful bride. The next one shows Okowa, waving APC flag. That's all we have on this day newspaper front page for today.
All right, now let's join our reviewer who will be joining us virtually. We have Dr. Theophilus Abba, the Director, Daily Trust Foundation. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Theophilus.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
All right, let's start off with a story that is on the front page of Daily Trust. We know that RFI had moved to the SDP, but we're seeing with the defection that has happened, he's coming out to say that they can win without governors. Where do you think that is coming from? What's your take on that statement?
Well, I think he's trying to say he doesn't regret the step he has taken, leaving the APC for the SDP. So I'm feeling that he wants to say that, look, I stand by what I have done. I don't regret it. But in reality, we know that in many states, you need governors to actually mobilize the electorate, not even political parties. Because governors control the structure from the ward level to the local government level up to the state level. In fact, beyond the state level, we know that even in the National Assembly, the National Assembly caucus of many states defer to the governor. So, and these are the foot soldiers to win elections. So if he says that you don't need governors to win an election, well, it's a bit, grandstanding. We know that Peter Obi was able to make an impact in 2023 election. But eventually, from what INEC told us, it didn't translate to victory. Even in several states where he, had a lot of votes, they didn't win the states. Most of the states were not won. So I'm feeling that, as a matter of fact, and from the reality of the Nigerian politics, governors are actually needed, one, to use their network to help to win the election, and secondly, to fund elections. So whatever he has said now is quite interesting, but perhaps he wants to experiment with it, winning election without governors. It can be a very tough task. But we know for all, even states where governors were defeated, it was a very tough battle. It wasn't really funny. So I don't think that aligns with our realities now. But I'm actually worried that everybody wants to be in the APC, so it's not helping us.
All right. We have a story on electricity-related incident that killed about 112 people in 2025, and us having Fagbemi now telling judges that they have to understand electricity law and what surrounds it. What is your take on that?
Well, the issue about death from electricity, I think there's an agency of government under the Ministry of Power that is in charge with protecting the facilities and ensuring that these deaths don't occur. I remember over the years we've done some reports, and the reason why these deaths occur are not exactly because people are careless, but it's actually because the agencies are supposed to take care of electricity infrastructure and ensure that Nigerians don't come in contact with them and they threaten or lose their lives. I don't think they are doing enough. For instance, wherever there's low tension wire, there shouldn't be any building there. And it is this agency of government that's supposed to supervise it, to ensure that everywhere you have low tension wire, perhaps structures are not put there, people don't build there in the name of poverty or whatsoever. But then wherever there are transformers, they are supposed to be encased, maybe fenced around, and ensure that people don't get close to transformers. And then even illegal connection, is forbidden. But the unfortunate about illegal connection is this: nobody does illegal connection without the intervention, without the support, without the urging of those who work in the electricity sector. For instance, I'm just a media person. I don't know anything about electricity. So I will not be able to do illegal connection to my own house. So it is the electricity sector operatives that are implicated whenever some of these things occur. And I'm thinking that the people who run the agency, the executive directors, are not to take their job seriously, because it's about life, the life of Nigerians. So you must ensure that wherever your assets are, I'm talking of all the facilities owned by the electricity agency, they must be protected, and there has to be stringent rules on ensuring that if they are not protected, the compensation that we pay to victims should be really something that will make them to feel the heat of it. So the ball is on the desk of those who run this agency of government. They must sit up. They mustn't say, "Oh, well, the guy was unfortunate. He did what he was not supposed to." You have to make sure that people are not even tempted to do what can lead to the death of their life, to their death.
All right. 2027 election is is coming, and a lot of talks have been in the news about it. But we're seeing that one of the things that have been spoken about is the electoral reform that INEC is looking at undergoing. And at this point, one of the things that INEC is seeking is, the voting right for inmates, Nigerians in diaspora, and early voting for security operators and others on election duty. What do you make of this?
Well, it's quite interesting that we are coming up with new ideas, new ways of inclusivity, ensuring that many more persons, contribute to the choice of who becomes the country's leader or leaders. So it's good, for us to have those in prison to vote. Nigerian diaspora, it's good for them to vote. Like journalists, if you are posted to a state that maybe is not where you are resident, you will not be allowed to vote. But if there's early voting, journalists too will be able to vote. Security operatives will be able to, they are very good, and I think they are commendable efforts. But the challenge actually is that is not actually the reform that is the main thing, but is the transparency in the way these reforms are implemented. For instance, I spoke with a friend who was in Burkina Faso during an election, or one of the African countries, Senegal, during an election. And he was telling me that all this machine technology that we are, spending money to use for elections were not even very, very important, because people could just use stones. If they have pebbles, and they'll give you maybe a pebble, go and put it in the box for the person that you want as your governor or as a representative in the national, and you just go there. People will be around there. They will count those pebbles, and then at the end of it, they declare, "Oh, Mr. A is the one that had the majority of the votes." So all this technology we are using, we are just trying to ensure that there's transparency. But again and again and again, we are not getting it right. So it's not the reform that actually matters as far as I'm concerned. It's actually the transparency, the way things are done. We have heard about elections being conducted, not even with a printed ballot paper. They just design something on an exercise, a torn part of exercise book. They just share among people, and they will ask you, which one do you want? Do you want the first candidate or second candidate? You know, okay, I want the first candidate, and then they take it. They'll go and sit down, calculate, count it, and then they declare the winner. But over time, we have discovered that our elections are not trustworthy, because all the people with the van use the word. Because if you talk about electoral fraud, security agencies are involved. You hear, policemen posted to a particular location. They say, we have been told that this person is the person that must win an election, so we must do everything to cooperate. We hear about security people thumbprinting in favor of some candidates. Then the electoral officers also, you see, they are not transparent in the way they do their work. And so the project was about transparency in the electoral process, about people believing, what INEC does. People believing, even political parties, whether the police are actually genuinely interested in true democracy is another issue altogether. And so we need reforms. I don't know whether there's anything like that. Reform among the Nigerian people, reform among those who are in the electoral value chain, to ensure that the election is transparent. You can bring all Nigerians, tell them to vote from America. Between America and Nigeria, the result could be, to me, that's important. But we want a transparent system, a believable system, whereby when somebody wins an election, we'll say, yes, he actually won the election. Not that when somebody wins an election, because we doubt it, I don't think he won that election. Those are so states, they didn't vote for him. But then the result showed that he won the election. This is not believable. This is not reliable. We even thank God that, recent years, people don't go violent so much because of electoral fraud. But then we have seen so much fraud, violence, not because people wanted to kill themselves, but people totally disagree with the outcome of elections. So I'm thinking that it's good that we engage in reform, but we should work more on transparency in the electoral process.
All right.
We have had reports of residents fleeing Adamawa due to Boko Haram's intensity they've intensified their attacks in Adamawa, and this has been going on in different places in the country, whereby people have been displaced. With the displacement and the lack of provision of food and resources for them to actually survive, how do you think the number of people displaced are going to manage in living their life?
Well, I think the major problem is the resurgence of Boko Haram. I mean, and that it is linked to 2027. I've mentioned it again and again. Because we have noticed that every election year or a period before election, the activities of insurgents or terrorists begins to rise. You see them, doing more, killing more, so that from what we discover, politicians can use as an argument against the government in power or against whatsoever. But then I believe strongly that those who have the authority.
All right, it seems our reviewer is having a bit of network glitch there, but he was talking about the resurgence of Boko Haram. It's linked to the 2027 election and how this is affecting people. And I was actually looking at it on the prism of the fact that funding has been pulled back.
Exactly.
If you check the Daily Trust newspaper, there was a story on the website about the fate of people living in IDPs who had to leave their homes because of Boko Haram. Now that there's an insurgency, it means more people are being displaced, more people are leaving their homes, more people have no means of survival, and then there's a funding cut from foreign aid towards caring for these
especially
people.
with the dependence on funding from foreign bodies.
All right, we have our reviewer back. Thank you for joining us back, Doctor.
Sorry for the disruption.
Okay, it's fine. In regards to this story from where residents flee their communities in Adamawa, we also linked it towards the stories on the fate of people in IDPs, especially now that funding has been cut. And with this still happening, we have more people being displaced. What do you make of that? Can the government handle the amount of IDPs we're going to be having now that there's a resurgence of Boko Haram, in addition to the ones we already have, who are not even in the best living conditions in the IDPs at the moment, given that foreign fundings are being cut, as we're seeing?
Okay, but I think there is the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, and I think they have that responsibility to look at how to cater for Nigerians who have been displaced, especially internally displaced persons. There's this argument that we need support from other countries, but I don't think that Nigerians, with the resources that we have voted for the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, that we are able to cater for our people. The important thing is for us to have, a kind of accurate data to know where they are. We need to know where these people are and to know what they need and to know how to cater for them. I know that there are some states, in the case of Adamawa, we have identified IDP camps in Adamawa, but then in a place like Katsina, in a place like Zamfara, in a place like Kaduna, there is a sense of denial that they don't want to accept that there is any IDP camp. And that is even worse, because people live under trees, they live in abandoned structures, they live in school premises, they live by the roadside and all those. So, but I am thinking that instead of us to begin to lament that these funds are being cut, of course, it's not a good thing for us, but then I think that the resources that we have, the resources available to the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, can be deployed. And I'm saying this in the context of the billions and billions and billions that we hear, being stolen, being mismanaged. Money was staggering. So all those billions, instead of entering into private pockets, if they can be deployed, to meet the needs of these genuine Nigerians who need the support, I think it is better. We may be looking out for Europe, America, United Nations, EU to do things for us. But sincerely, if we manage the resources that we have, we can take care of our people. I don't think the plight of the IDP is so overwhelming that if we apply our resources, we'll not be able to handle them. And then the second leg to it is that if government is serious about dealing with insecurity, these IDPs should go back to their homes. You see, they are not interested in staying in the cities or in some locations where somebody will be giving them handout. Many of them can farm. Many of them have their own trade. In fact, there was an investigation that we conducted, and we noticed that there are a lot of millionaires and billionaires, those who are doing genuine businesses, who became IDPs. So most of those in IDPs didn't want to become IDPs. So the first issue and the major fundamental thing that we need to do is to deal with insecurity sincerely. I use the word sincerely with emphasis. If we deal with this sincerely, this will return to their farms. I have always said that we need a security architecture for rural communities. The vigilante system has not helped us. We need a security architecture, and some of the money we use to buy aircraft, buy some bombers from America, from all the, if we convert them to getting weapons that can deal with security in rural areas, not bombing, and it will help, and this will go back to their farms. Right. So I feel that the first thing is, well, the Humanitarian Affairs Ministry must rise to this challenge. The second thing is that the security operatives must come up with a genuine local intelligence, local security measure, so that Nigerians in rural areas can be protected. We don't have any need to have people in camps and be begging for food and all this and all that. Nigeria has gone beyond that. I think Obasanjo was saying that there's no reason why Nigerians should be hungry or should be poor, because he knows the kind of resources that we have. Some of the resources that we waste, in trying to live, ostentatious lives, can be converted to supporting some of these IDPs.
All right, Dr. Theophilus. Now, quickly before we go, PDP NWC meets today, and one of the things on their agenda is, the NEC and Delta Caretaker Committee. What do you expect? We saw Saraki coming out one time to say those that are defecting should leave so the party can refocus and reorganize itself and prioritize itself. So what are your expectations from that meeting?
I think the meeting is very important because many Nigerians are not happy that, even high-ranking members of the PDP are moving to other parties, moving to another party, the ruling party. It's not a good sign. In other climes, if you contest an election and you lost, you don't just jump from your political party to the ruling party simply because you want some selfish interest. So I am thinking that the PDP needs to actually sit down and look at what is remaining, of the party and say how to serve its opposition political party. Not just because they just want to be opposition party, but we need an opposition that can, put the government in power, under check, to say, look, we have alternative viewpoints. To say, look, it shouldn't be a thoroughfare for you. To say, oh, this, you ought to do it in this manner. Because if you don't have any opposition, it will be very, very bad for Nigeria. At the moment, we are seeing that even the legislature and the executive, they are so much in bed that the legislature does not really query what the executive does. And otherly, it shouldn't be so. Even though we know they are of the same party, but there should be a measure of, scrutiny, a measure of asking of questions. This idea of saying, oh, whatever the president says we'll do, is not something that is valid in a true democracy. So I'm thinking that the PDP needs to come together, even if it's only two states that they have. We are seeing them as the major, opposition, major alternative to the APC. Even if they don't win an election, let them play their role. Let the party play its role as a vibrant opposition party. We have seen that even Atiku, as an individual, as a member of the party, is doing a whole lot, as an opposition. They play the role of an opposition in Nigeria. But if the party is the one doing what Atiku is doing, perhaps it will be better for Nigeria. You can't just say, oh, whatever Tinubu does is right. And so, I mean, we have to accept our fate. That is not how a country, a democratic society is supposed to be run.
All right, thank you.
It's not an authoritarian system. And so the government must be.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Theophilus, there for making out time. We could see it was quite tight for you, but you made out time to join in, on the show this morning to throw more light on major stories that made it to the headlines. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I'm sorry I was not in the studio. Perhaps next time to be better.
Well, it's the thought that counts. You did join us despite
Absolutely.
it all. All right, to our listeners out there, on behalf of the production crew, my name is Lilian Ogazi. That's all we have on the show this morning. I hope we've been able to keep you informed and giving you something to kick your day. We'll see you again, same time tomorrow. My name is Lilian Ogazi.
And I'm Hawa Adamikiawa. Thank you for watching.